Well, the rand weakened by more than 1% against the dollar yesterday afternoon and continues to trade weaker this morning at just above 19 rand to the dollar. The stronger dollar is mainly the result of higher yields on U.S. treasuries, the rising conflict in the Middle East, and the possibility of no interest rate cuts in the U.S. in March. South Africa and the rest of the world are in for an interesting time with interest rates, inflation, economic growth and elections lined up for this year. Joining us now via Teams to look at the market predictions for 2024, we're joined by Isaac Mamorobela, who is the OCTA spokesperson in South Africa, which is an international broker. Isaac, good morning. Thank you so much for making time for us. So the biggest thing this year for the year 2024 is, of course, 60% of countries that contribute to economic trade or the economic trade of the globe, which accounts for 60% of those countries, are actually heading into elections. What does that uncertainty mean for the markets?
Exciting news. Firstly, let me just thank you for having me today. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be here. To answer your question, as you have said, over 60% of countries globally, they are, heading for upcoming elections. There is a lot of uncertainties in terms of who's going to win. There's a whole lot of talks. I think for the first time in history or in our time, most of the previous elections, I think everybody has always had an idea of who is going to win. So they kind of put their eggs in that basket. But right now, you look at the United States, you look at South Africa, you look at all these other countries, there is just so much going on. Nobody is sure as to what's going to happen. So we're kind of in a neutral stage right now, which can lead to two things, right? It can either lead to, the world recession, or it can lead to the best economy that we've ever seen in this generation.
Well, last year we were told about a possible recession as well, and it didn't happen. I see this year you're speaking about a possible soft landing, but the possibility of a recession still lingering.
Yes, there is still that possibility of a recession, but as I said, we are kind of in the middle right now, where we really have no idea what is going to happen. One of two things will happen. That recession, there is still a high possibility of it happening this year. And also there is a possibility of us having a soft landing in the terms of, if things go the way that people are assuming it would go, then that could lead to a more positive outcome of the global economy.
Mm-hmm. I see Bloomberg reporting this morning that Lisitja Kganyago, the Reserve Bank governor, saying that he doesn't see rate cuts amid the tricky prices. And of course, this has been a major issue for South Africa globally as well, this issue around interest rates. But we've seen in some countries, the reserve banks there and the Feds there starting to cut the rates. What's the possibility of us cutting rates at least before we reach the September mark?
In South Africa, I honestly do not see that happening. As you will notice, we are kind of in a crunch right now. If you see the interest rate hikes that has happened in the past 2-3 years, it's almost 100%. Increase on the repo hikes, on the interest rate hikes. So the possibility of seeing that being cut, I don't see it happening this year. Maybe in the near future, but right now I honestly, and I also don't want to alarm people, but even if we say we're gonna have a cut, not before September, I don't see it happening.
Not before September. The possibility of, and we know that the United States have used the quantitative easing before. The possibility of the Feds going back there and the impact that will have then on the global markets. However, some pundits in the US have said that the problem with having so much money available is what has led to the US really struggling to recover.
Yes, absolutely correct.
Yeah, what's your take on that?
My take on it is obviously that's correct in terms of having too much money in the markets causes such things as as inflation. It causes a lot of uncertainties. So what we want to see happening right now, especially, let me speak in the context of of South Africa, right? Since we are in South Africa. Let me speak in the context of, so what we're seeing now in our country, we're seeing the issue with Eskom that is affecting our economy, right? That's one issue. We see the issue with the hiking interest rate that is also affecting our economy. We see the high rising of unemployment rate in the country right now. All right. So that means the chances of our economy getting into a positive state are very minimal until we sort out all of these issues that are affecting our country. And also, not to add, the natural disasters that are happening right now. That means that is a knock on the government. So as a country, I will say we are not in a very good state right now. And if, with the upcoming elections as well, I'm honestly don't see a positive outlook for our country, but we can only hope for the best day.
Yeah. Ordinarily, what happens during an election year when it comes to investment? Do we see investments going down because of the uncertainty, perhaps, that some investors may anticipate, and only after the elections do they then start considering whether to invest or not to invest?
Yes, you are correct in saying that. So, and as I said earlier, the previous elections, I think from 1994, I think South Africa and also global investors have always have that, certainty that, our current ruling party is going to win the elections. However, this year things are totally different. Even them themselves are not sure. So that means all the relationships that the current ruling party has, and it brings alarm to the current investors, global investors that are coming into the country. So they are not sure if they are still going to, invest in the country, because that means if the ruling party changes, they're not sure if the same agreements of the investments are still going to stay in place. You get what I'm saying? So I think for now, we will see a pullout of a lot of global investors pulling out, and only after the elections and we are sure as to who is the ruling party, then the investors can start coming in.
Yeah, you touched a bit on the issue around the weather patterns. The Reserve Bank governor last year also during one of the MPC meetings raised this issue, especially when it comes to the El Nino. But the impact that will have on the prices of food, especially in the country, and then also the logistical problems that we have with Transnet. What do you think government can do to try and mitigate the impact of those?
At the moment, I'm not trying to be a bit negative, but I believe the current government has shown their incompetence in terms of how they are unable to solve the issues that affect the average South African, the average South African. So even if we say, there are things that they could do, I think we all know it's not going to happen. And, and I'm not trying to be, negative or political, but I really don't even want to get into it to say this is what I think the government should do, because I think we all know it's not going to happen. This is, I believe, and I don't want to be controversial, but I believe this is just opening up another avenue for, for these corrupt people to just get their hands on more money.
Yeah. Another issue is artificial intelligence, and the WEF report for 2024 actually notes this one as well as quite a critical issue to look into, artificial intelligence. But I haven't really seen enough research being done or data around the disruptiveness that artificial intelligence could cause for the labor market, especially for a labor market in a developing country such as South Africa.
Yeah. It's let me put it this way. We have leaders that are not invested in the future of this country. They are not invested in the future of the people of this country. Because one of the reasons is because they are not going to be in that future. So the approach of the South African leadership is more on what can we do today to enrich ourselves. All right. And that is why, as much as the world is going into the fourth industrial revolution, we are still somehow behind. No one in government is saying, you know what, we really need to start looking into, where the world is going. So it's like Like the world is going that way, and we are saying we will stick to where we are. Nobody's really investing in that. And artificial intelligence is the way to go right now. But I see, you know, on the positive side, I see a lot of young South African people, a lot of startup companies really just trying to get out there and jump on this artificial intelligence wagon.
Yeah. Finally, let's look at the rand. We started off the conversation or my introduction looking at how the rand was trading this morning and weakening by at least 1% yesterday. The possibility of the rand strengthening during this particular time, what are the possibilities of that? And also looking into the cost of fuel.
The possibilities of the rand gaining strength against the dollar, it's quite, you know, it's quite low right now. As we see, the dollar has been gaining strength not only to the South African rand, it's been gaining strength against a lot of other major currencies. So, and especially as we know, our economy is usually weaker. So the possibility of that happening, from my prediction, let me just quickly open my charts right now. I'll tell you, if we're going to get you know, any strength, I'd say we can look at around the 18 rand 70, 18 rand 80 mark, and that's where we're going to be averaging for the next coming few weeks and few months.
What does that mean for how we shave off the impact that the volatile price, the price of oil has?
That is obviously the price of oil is going to increase as much as you know, the dollar is gaining strength against us. So we're going to see a bit of a high rise on the price of oil as well.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. Isaac Mamorobela is OCTA spokesperson in South Africa.